guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to the blanket fort. So today's snacks are pita chips and hummus. Oh my gosh, there's this like little sandwich shop. It's super nice and they sell like hummus by the quarter pint and it's so good. Not the best I've had in my life, but it's still pretty good. So today, the first thing I wanted to ask before we get into my favorite movies from 2020 so far, there's only been 2 years. 2 questions. First of all, do you consider a decade, I thought about this the other day, do you consider a decade from year 0 to 9 or from year 1 to 10? Second question, should I keep the blanket fort thing going? I feel like I started it just for this series, but it's kind of fun. I like the aesthetic. I love my Snoopy. I love Snoopy. It's so cute. Okay. Yes. So those are my 2 questions. I kind of like it though, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I need to get this a little bit higher because my hair is brushing and I need a better pillow for my butt because I get kind of like pancake butt by the end of each video, but that's okay. I have a problem because I mostly use Netflix. My roommate has Hulu and everything else in the other room, but like, for the most part, I'm mooching off of my dad's Netflix. If you're not mooching off of a relative, then what kind of person are you? I guess you're the kind of person who gets mooched off of. Yeah, my other problem is I've been to the movies once since the pandemic, and it's not like, actually, it was kind of nice because the movie theaters around here are like rooms that could accommodate 200-300 people, maybe even more. And when I went to see Candyman, and it was 15 people maybe total, and it was kind of nice. I like the quietness of it. My other problem is, unfortunately, I'm a big fat weirdo, as the name of my channel implies, and all my friends in real life, like, I have friends who like horror, okay? But like the friends that are in New York City where I am right now are a bunch of freaking powder puffs. So I can't invite them to go see the movies, a movie at the movie theater with me. So like every time I have to go alone, which wouldn't be a problem if I didn't, like, I don't mind going to the movie theaters alone, okay? I really don't. But like not every single time, That's just sad. Okay, I need a friend. The first one I wanted to mention, so I've never heard of anyone disliking this one, and that is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, from 2021, and directed by Michael Chaves. Oh my gosh. I'll write it down below. I'm so sorry. I apologize in advance, and for any previous names I've butchered, I'm really sorry, not on purpose. This one, I was pleasantly surprised for the most part, because I feel like compared to the previous Conjuring movies and Annabelle, I feel like this one creeped me out a little bit more. I would say movies like The Conjuring and Insidious, like I mentioned the other day, are especially creepy to me because I believe in some of that stuff. I don't really want to get into it because it's like a whole different conversation, but like I feel like horror movies are more or less creepy depending on how much you believe it could happen in real life, right? For this one, I mean, obviously it's based on a true story. I get it. It's a little bit of a controversial thing when it comes to demonology and exorcism, etc. I thought the movie did a pretty good retelling of the original story. I don't know how much they wanted to stick to the original, like, real-life thing. Like, is this a historical fiction horror, or is it, like, purely documentary-esque, sort of? Are they trying to retell exactly how it happened? If so, they did a good job. If not, I thought that it could have been a little bit more dramatic. I don't know. Like, when Ed and Lorraine... Okay, a little bit spoilery, but when Ed and Lorraine leave to come back, I didn't see the shadow. When Ed and Lorraine leave to come back, I was just like, something about that felt a little bit scripted, you know? And I get it's in the script for the movie, obviously, but I don't know, it just felt like a little unnatural. I don't know why, for, you know, Lorraine to just, like, leave to get to the train and then magically have that moment of clarity and then they're like, okay, now we can go back. Like, I don't know. It was just, I would have preferred for events to unfold a little bit differently. That being said, I still really enjoyed it. The next one I want to mention, this I was kind of surprised that I enjoyed it, because as previously mentioned, I'm really not that into zombie movies. Also, this was my first Korean horror movie, so I was not familiar with, that kind of cinematography. That one is #Alive from 2020, and directed by Il Cho. I think I pronounced that correctly. If not, I'm sorry again. It basically takes place in this apartment complex area, and there's a zombie outbreak, and you follow this teenager as a main character who basically survives the outbreak or the sickness outbreak. By the way, I love that it came out in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. I don't know if they started working on it before or after coronavirus started, but like, kudos, honestly. It's not the best horror movie out there, but I still thought it was kind of medium scary. The plot line was what I expected of a movie that's more about the vibe than the story, because not much happens, honestly, aside from survival. I think it was mostly also one of those movies where they're just interested in, like, making you feel like you're about to get eaten by a zombie. I think most of the creepy factor came from the fact that I watched it alone in my room in quarantine or in confinement during the pandemic. That added to it, honestly. I'm going to talk about this in a separate video. I was going to make a video, actually my first video for November. Maybe I'll make it my second, I don't know. I was going to make a video about how I read with my visual impairment, and I did want to mention stuff about subtitles in movies. I guess I'll talk about it more then instead of now. But for, you know, movies that are not in English, that need only the subtitles, it's a little bit weird for me. So I think that's also maybe, I can't remember if it was purely subtitles or not, but anyway, that's a story for a different day. The next one I want to mention, I already did, Candyman from 2020, and directed by Nia DaCosta. See, there go my eyes again. Nia DaCosta. Okay, so I have some thoughts about this movie. I want to pat myself on the back for finding the sweet spot in the movie theater. I was like in the middle, right in front of the screen. The sound was perfect. It was almost a little bit too loud, actually, but not so bad that I didn't, you know. Do you ever do that sometimes when you go to a movie theater and it's like almost uncomfortably loud for no reason? I don't know. Anyway, I really, really like this movie. However, I feel like the original Candyman was, maybe it's because of the older special effects or something. There's always something about newer CGI special effects that kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes it's so realistic that it takes away from the original creep factor of the original movie, especially when it comes to, well, this wasn't really a remake, it was a follow-up movie to the series, but you know, when you're doing something that's part of a franchise that's a classic, that is like, I have that same problem with stuff like Chucky, Freddy, Krueger, Halloween. Well, I guess Halloween not so much, because you can't really CGI Michael Myers. It's not, you know what I mean. But you know what I'm saying? Like, Candyman almost felt a little too, I don't know, there was something about it. That's also how I felt about the new Star Wars movies when I saw them. I don't know, it's just the magic of cinema for me. I also said it earlier in this series, I think it was my first or second video, probably my first video, when I was doing movies from before the 1900s, where I was talking about how some special effects from before the 1900s I thought were better than some of the ones we have now. I'm not even joking. I can't remember which movie I said that for, but just in case, the playlist is linked in the comments. Not the comments, the description. Same thing. Below the video. I didn't notice this so much at first, but then John from Books of Blood was talking about Candyman, and in his video he said, one thing that bothered me is that during the movie, they kind of like, when Candyman's killing someone, they kind of like pan away and suggest it, and I didn't even notice it while I was watching the movie, honestly, but now that I think about it, I'm like, yeah! We want to see people die here, come on, you know? That's rude. So I guess they wanted to keep it a little bit PG. And my last thing I do want to mention, because, and this is not necessarily a spoiler or anything if you haven't seen it yet, but in the last scene of Candyman, there's a lot of cop lights. And I don't know if anyone else, I feel like, okay, so growing up in France, I think I remember at the movie theaters, they would always have a notice on the door if a movie had a lot of flashing lights or a lot of special effects, stuff like that, like beware for people with epilepsy, like this movie is specifically epilepsy-inducing, I guess. And honestly, the cop lights came kind of out of nowhere, and they're not like in the distance, they're really in your face. And I was like, you know, this movie could have warned people about that, because honestly, I don't have epilepsy, and it kind of bothered me for a second there. So I can only imagine, you know, so I would, and I'm saying this about Candyman, but I mean this about every movie, appreciate if there was a little bit more of an explicit warning about stuff like that. The next one I want to mention is Squid Games from 2021 and directed by Dong-hyuk. I think I pronounced that correctly. Here's a little funny story. Initially, I hadn't heard about the Squid Games for a few days, apparently. That's all it took. And one of my former coworkers and I were talking by email, and she's like, oh, yeah, I've been watching Squid Games recently, and I'm like, oh, what's that about? And she's like, well, it's just this series about people who are really in debt, and they play a series of games to get money. Or something along those lines. And for some reason, I'm not kidding, I thought she meant it was a reality show. Why is this TV reality show, like, edited like a movie or like a regular series? And also, I was like, if this is a reality show, that's so sick! Why are you making people with, like, massive amounts of debt compete for that kind of money in a reality show? Okay. I just had to say that because I thought it was kind of funny. And I went literally halfway through the first episode completely convinced it was some type of reality show. And then I was like, no, Celeste, you're just kind of stupid at this point. I'm not going to spoil anything for the Squid Games. I will say I've never... Okay, no, that's a lie. This is my second time watching a horror series, I think. Maybe third. The only one I remember off the top of my head is the Haunting of Hill House series. I guess I could have mentioned it. I think it came out in 2020, but I'm not sure. I should have mentioned it in this video. This is me mentioning it right now. It's super amazing. Watch it totally. Oh my gosh. It's one of the best things in the universe. One of my favorite TV series, aside from horror, in the world ever is Desperate Housewives, which is like total drama. And I feel like this one completely satisfied my need for drama. Just like, and my favorite death was, well, that would be a spoiler. Ask me in the comments. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. No, it was super fun, and I definitely did not see the plot twist coming. That was sick. That was sick. That was rude and sick and so good. Oh my gosh. I mean... I don't know what South Korea is doing, but they're doing it right. And the last one I'm going to mention for today are a series of 3 movies, and that's the Fear Street series. So I think there's 1666, and then 1960 something, and then 1980 something. Highly professional. So those were from 2000, 2021. I don't know why I said it like that. And directed by Leigh, Janiak. Again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. My favorite of the 3, honestly, was the 1666 one. I think the first movie, I think, honestly, they were all amazing, but comparatively, the first was probably my least favorite. I don't know. And then the second was my favorite just because of the music, and I love rock and roll and everything, so I was just vibing. I would watch it again 20 times in a row, honestly. And the third one was my favorite because I think it was the creepiest for me. I don't know. There's something about movies set in a different time period than what we're living right now that's just automatically creepier. You know, like it's just it just is. By the way, the Fear Street movies were based on a book series. I don't know how many book series there are. I haven't read them. The first time I heard about this, I think, was a little bit before the Fear Street movies came out on Netflix, by the way, if you have Netflix. Was on Cameron Chaney's, yeah, that's him, Cameron Chaney's YouTube channel, where he was talking about the book series. I can't remember what video it was. Final thoughts before concluding the series, which has been so much fun to make. I will say, I feel like there's 3 categories of horror movies. There's like 1895 up until the 60s, 1960. Or I should say the 50s in that case. And then there's 60s to the mid-90s, and then there's like mid-90s to now. And I feel like now horror movies are kind of like picking up steam again. I'm gonna say a good script is way better than a million CGIs. I'd rather, like I said, there are movies from 1895s or like the 1890s that I prefer over horror movies from the 2010s. So there you go. The second thing is, one of my favorite things also about Asian, or at least Japanese movies, like I said the other day, is the use of silence. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine how creepy horror movies would be if like the music would just cut it out? Like seriously, just use silence. Movies have to just be quiet. That's final answer. So I hope you enjoyed this little series. I hope you got some good snacks out of it. Let me know how you feel about the blanket fort. Should I keep doing it? Like this video if you did. Subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you guys in my next video for the pumpkin carving. Bye!